All right, welcome. In this explainer, we're going to tackle a common problem, turning those flat, kind of disappointing black and white negative scans into something crisp, modern, and just awesome. And we're going to do it all using the super powerful and free software, Darktable.
So, does this look familiar? You go through all the trouble of shooting and developing your film, you scan it, and you get this. Kind of flat, a little mushy, maybe a bit washed out. If you're nodding your head right now, don't worry, you are definitely not alone. It's a super common problem, but the good news is it's totally fixable. Okay, let's dive in and see how. So here's the deal. On the left, you've got what a lot of us get right out of the gate. It's just gray. The details are lost in this muddy midtone, and it just doesn't have any punch, right? But on the right, that's our goal. A high-contrast, sharp black and white image with really deep blacks, bright whites, and tons of texture. It looks intentional and powerful.
You know, when you look at great contemporary black and white photography, it's all about that contrast, that texture, and the emotion. It's about composition. That's the power of modern monochrome. We're really aiming for that crisp, intentional feel, not a soft, faded, vintage look. We want something that pops.
All right, section 1. From flat scan to fine art, the core tool. You know, the first and most important step to getting that look is using the right tool for that initial conversion and, crucially, setting it up the right way.
Okay, before we do anything else, there's a really critical step. You have to turn off the Filmic RGB module. Now, Darktable usually turns this on by default, and look, it's an amazing tool for digital photos. But for film scans, it's kind of redundant. Think of it like this. Your film already has a certain character baked in. Adding Filmic RGB is like adding a filter on top of a filter. It just complicates things. So, first things first, turn it off. That gives us a clean slate to work with.
This brings us to the star of the show, the Negadoctor module. This thing is the absolute key to a great black and white conversion. It's basically your digital developer, designed specifically to turn that negative into a beautiful, workable positive. Honestly, getting a handle on this one module is everything. So let's walk through the must-know settings to get a really clean inversion.
Okay, so here's the core workflow inside Negadoctor. Super simple, but super powerful. First step, easy one. Change the mode from color film to black and white film. Now, here comes the important part. It's kind of like a balancing act. You're going to adjust the D-Max slider to set your white point. That's what makes your whites bright without blowing them out. Then, you'll use the Scan Exposure Bias slider to set your black point, getting those shadows nice and rich, but not crushed. You'll probably go back and forth between these two a few times to dial it in perfectly. And finally, you can use the Paper Grade slider for a baseline contrast boost. Seriously, getting this balance right, that's like 90% of the battle right there.
Section 2, sculpting a modern look beyond the inversion. Because look, a good inversion is just the beginning, right? That gets us a technically correct positive image, but it doesn't automatically make it a modern one. To get that really crisp, impactful look, we've got to sculpt the image with a few more tools.
And this quote from the Pixels.us forums absolutely nails it. The idea is, don't spend forever trying to perfect every little thing inside Negadoctor. Get a solid base, a really good starting point, and then move on to other, more specialized modules to do the real fine-tuning.
Speaking of specialized modules, let's talk about local contrast. This thing is your secret weapon for fighting those mushy midtones. It adds punch and that perceived sharpness right where you need it, without messing up your main black and white points. Just a little touch of this is the key to making texture and detail really pop. It's what brings the whole image to life.
Now, if you want even more control over the mood and feel, the RGB curve module is where you want to be. All you need to do is create a gentle S-curve. Just pull down the shadows a little bit and lift the highlights up. This simple move adds that beautiful, dramatic, almost cinematic contrast. It's a classic trick for a reason. It just works. Okay, ever look at your black and white scan and think, wait, is that a hint of blue? Or maybe magenta? It's not your eyes playing tricks on you. Even B&W scans can have a weird color cast from the scanner. The easiest way to fix this? Just enable the monochrome module. It's a one-click fix to get a pure, neutral black and white image. You could also use the color calibration module, but honestly, for this, monochrome is the simplest way to go. All right, our next section is a big one. The pro tip, Darktable secret of module order. Now listen up, because this is probably the single most important concept to understand in Darktable, especially for what we're doing. It solves a huge point of confusion for so many people, and once you get this, everything else is just going to click into place. So have you ever done this? You've got your inverted image, you grab the exposure slider to make it brighter, and the image gets darker. Or you try to warm it up, and it gets cooler.
It feels like it's working backwards, right? Well, if that's happened to you, congratulations, you've just discovered the pixel pipeline.
Okay, so what is this pixel pipeline? It's basically the order that Darktable applies all your edits. And here's the catch. By default, modules like exposure or color calibration are applied before Negadoctor does its job of inverting the image. So when you're moving that exposure slider, you're not brightening the final positive image, you're brightening the negative. And what happens when you brighten a negative? The final print, the positive, gets darker. That's exactly why it feels so backwards and confusing. The fix, thankfully, is super simple. You just have to change the order. You need Negadoctor to do its inversion job first, and then all your other adjustments, your exposure, your local contrast, your RGB curves, all of those need to happen after the inversion. That way, they're working on the positive image, and the sliders will finally do what you expect them to do.
And it's so easy to do. All you have to do is hold down Control and Shift, or Command and Shift on a Mac, and then you can just drag and drop the modules into a new order in that panel on the right. Just drag all those finishing tools so they're stacked above Negadoctor. This little trick is a total game changer. It makes Darktable finally feel intuitive. Okay, let's bring it all together. We've gone over the key tools and the big aha moment with the pixel pipeline. So now let's recap the whole thing into a simple step-by-step workflow you can use every time.
So here it is, the whole shebang in 5 steps. Step 1, setup. Turn off Filmic RGB. Step 2, invert. Use Negadoctor to get that solid positive base using Dmax and exposure bias. Step 3, and this is the crucial one, reorder your pipeline. Drag all your other editing modules to run after Negadoctor. Step 4 is where you sculpt the image. Add that punch with local contrast in your RGB S-curve. And finally, step 5, finalize it. Use the monochrome module to zap any weird color casts. That's it. That's the path from a flat scan to a finished photo with real impact.
And here we go. The proof is in the pudding, right? Look at the difference. On the left is that flat, gray, kind of sad image we started with, and on the right is the final result. By following this simple workflow, we've transformed it into a powerful modern image that's just full of detail, texture, and life. It's a completely different photograph.
So the only question left is, what story are you going to tell now that your black and white images can finally have the impact they truly deserve? When you master this digital darkroom process, you really get full creative control over the mood and the emotion of your film work. It's pretty amazing. Thanks for watching.